My name is Trond and I'm I direct the Startup Exchange. I'm here to tell you a little bit about where we are, where we have been, and where we're going, and why you're in the room, hopefully, although you probably know that better than me. Why are we trying to connect industry to startups? It turns out that many of the members that Carl mentioned, are extremely interested in startups, so that should be no surprise to you. But this initiative is actually only 3 years old. The liaison program is 75 years old, but the Startup Exchange is 3 years old. So that's a little interesting tidbit for people who think about trends. We are here to talk about what's happening in robotics. And I think, as will become apparent throughout the day, it is particularly the application areas around robotics that are changing and that we will be exploring in some depth today. And as this image shows, it is perhaps connected robotics, or this idea that robots are now closer, or have to be closer, and can be closer to humans than ever before, that unites this thread of inquiry. In any case, the questions we are going to try to cover today are as basic as what actually a robot might be, because I think that there are some changes there as well. We are looking into robots, drones, and sensor technology together to signify some of these changes. And then we have brought in, obviously, the human dimension, and you'll see that through the startups and some of the speakers as well. We are obviously here to look at startups, but from the perspective of how startups are disrupting and can be disruptive, but also collaborative with industry. And perhaps lastly, we're here to look at the potential for rapid mass adoption, which I believe many of you here have a vested interest in. And if we get to the visionary stuff, we will look at some of the impact that this is really having on our world and what that impact will be in the near term. We're not talking in the next 50 years only, but these changes are unfolding actually year by year and month by month. As Carl said, we have a very varied program here at the Corporate Relations. The next upcoming similar event to this one is called Cracking Cancer. It'll be in December, so please spread the word about that one. We also have actually 2 showcases in Japan, one that's just coming up, and then another one in Tokyo in January, if you find yourselves there. And then in the spring again, we will hit this type of format again with energy innovation and a host of other topics. Similarly, there are larger conferences here on campus and also around the world in Japan, China, and Korea. And there is our very big research and development conference in November. So that's the program at MIT Corporate Relations. You will hear today mostly about robotics and, as I say, drones and sensor networks, but there are a lot of topics where there are startups at MIT. So, today we're covering a couple of them, but please check us out for many, many other topics. There is probably not a technology, a broad scope technology, that there is no MIT startup working on right now. Corporations, as Carl said, can get involved by getting in touch with the MIT Industrial Liaison Program. Startup Exchange is actually not a membership program for corporations. You cannot just come to MIT and look at our startups. MIT is an innovation ecosystem. It takes a buy-in to the whole concept. We are depending on you to build research for the long haul. So that's the value proposition for startups and for corporations, I mean. We have 230 corporate members of the ILP program. We have about 1,300, depending a little bit how we count the startups. We're obviously not working as closely with each of these 1,300, but I would say there's a hardcore of 200-300 that we are in touch with on an almost daily basis. And we made about 600 introductions last year. When it goes well, why we do this is to foster partnerships between large companies and startups. Just wanted to show you 2. Witricity and IHI, a big Japanese provider, have collaborated on electric vehicles. Tulip, a very recent startup, has done great work together with Merck in Europe. And lastly, I wanted to highlight that, I said we had 1,300 startups, but we decided It's actually too difficult for us to focus on 1,300 at a time. So we have chosen to feature in particular 25 startups at a time in our accelerator program. And accelerator begs a little bit of an explanation. It's a strange term, perhaps, for what this is. For one, every accelerator typically takes 7%. We don't take anything from the startups. Secondly, they are sometimes paid programs that we don't charge. This is a free program that lasts for 12 months. And fourthly, most accelerators, you can apply to them. You cannot apply to this accelerator. You have to be nominated by one of the 150 heads of department, lab, or center at MIT. So that tells you a little bit about what we do and why we do it. Here are some of the startups, some of which on this, I think at least one on stage today. But let me move immediately to the first speaker. I'm thrilled I'm sorry, this was not supposed to be this slide. The first speaker is Marcus Daloff, my colleague, and we're going to do the startup lightning talks, and then we'll get back to the next speaker after. Marcus, great.